welcome to this week's In Conversation. My name is Phil Jackman and I lead on CyberNorth, the Northeast cybersecurity cluster, developed by Dynamo Northeast and supported by Accenture and the Innovation Super Network. We're recognised by both DCMS and the National Cybersecurity Centre as representing the region. So each week I'm talking to people in the cybersecurity industry, and today I'm joined by Paul Ridley, Senior Internal IT Auditor at NBS. Hi Paul, how are you?
I'm fine, I'm good. How are you, Phil?
I'm very good, thanks. So our paths have crossed many times, both at ISC Squared and the Northeast Fraud Forum, which I'm a member of. Can you start telling us a bit about yourself and your role at NBS?
Yep, I've been an auditor for 20 plus years now. I'm married, got 4 children, and I have a variety of hobbies: running, coaching football, school governor. So I've got lots of volunteering aspects that feed into a lot of what I do and how I connect to the community as a whole. So in terms of my role at NBS, it's only I just recently moved there from October last year. So it's been a COVID transfer, which is an interesting experience and been a very good positive experience, I have to say. And I've joined NBS Internal Audit function as an IT auditor.
Excellent.
In the IT and change.
Excellent. So you had quite a long career in general ICT at Northern Rock, and so what made you move to audit?
Well, ironically, as most I think internal auditors will say, it's not by design a lot of the time. Although I have to say I think that's changing now as a profession. I think we're more astute in terms of taken as a professional body in itself, as opposed to a subset of accountancy. But essentially, I got headhunted internally at Northern Rock and basically got asked if I wanted to travel the country, covering the branch network, auditing, counting cash, which evolved into mortgage audits. I've become a sort of specialist in lending, really, in terms of effectively re-underwriting the quality of loans, because a lot of the lending was decentralized, and with financial crashes in the late 80s, that was seen as essential control. So that's how I got into it. And in terms of developing more of an IT sort of link with that, was we, instead of going out to branches, we devised a process where we could download stuff from the mainframe. The policy compliance was the main sort of issue, so we sort of programmed that into a database, and essentially it spat out exceptions. It took about a year to set all that up, but given the, it was 20 odd years ago, so but between 3 or 4 of us, we developed that, and that was effectively produce an exception at branch, regional, and the whole company level, which helped management get some good insights in terms of how lending was and where the risks were. So that's how I got into it.
So do you need to really have a background in general auditing before you specialize in IT audit?
No, I think a lot of internal auditors become involved just through the business, and I think it's good. It's good for the business to have people move into audit for a while, because then you get to see what the whole business is doing, appreciate what some of the key risks are, engage with, build some of the softer skills. Communication's a key factor, listening skills, all those sort of related skills, but also articulating, writing reports for different levels, from sort of middle management right up to the board. It requires a whole different skill set, and I've found where I've mentored people or trained people through, they've gained a lot from being part of the internal audit function.
Indeed, auditors are your friends, and so I was absolutely. So many people want to understand what an IT auditor does, but if you could just describe what you do in a typical day, if there is such a thing these days.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say there was a typical day, but certainly in terms of we have an audit plan, we've got allocated audits, and essentially it's progressing them audits. It's, if you think one of the key skills of an auditor is project management, and therefore audits are a mini project, and essentially you just apply those basic skills of managing your time, managing your resources, and booking in your meetings, planning ahead, and then obviously physically doing the testing, gathering the evidence, and contacting the relevant people. Producing a report at some point, findings, discussing those, again, communication links into that in terms of ensuring that your facts are fully covered, and then coming up with actions. Or it's interesting that NBS has a different approach to where I've ever been before, which is quite, I suppose, forward thinking in terms of where we make the business itself come up with the actions to a certain extent, with some sort of guidance in some sort of direction. But essentially they come up with we identify the gap, if you like, the finding, and then they come up with the relevant action, and sort of then we'll sort of negotiate between the two in terms of target, set time, and all the rest of it. So it is quite innovative, I think, a different approach, a more joined up approach between audit and the business.
Yeah, so it's their issue now rather than the audit's issue. So what's the difference, or the role difference between that and computer forensic investigator, which sounds very exciting?
Yeah, I've done lots of different roles. I think one thing that made me sort of seek a new area is, I wanted to get back into the financial services world, but the other bit is to get more focused in particular areas rather than being a sort of jack of all trades and sort of master of none, which brings a lot of pressures around those different roles. But in my previous role with Newcastle City Council, I was sort of the fraud investigator, computer forensics, and IT auditor for a number of clients, and that all brings about different pressures. But one thing I did enjoy was that the computer forensics, and we used over the time we carried out quite a lot of investigations using NCASE, which is that's a sort of de facto standard. Although now there's lots of software out there that does lots of specific stuff, but NCASE does the whole lot. In terms of, if not that I've had to use it in the prosecution, but if you did have to use it in the prosecution, then it is a de facto standard. So, but it's so powerful in terms of the actual software itself, the ease that it actually does it now in terms of how they've developed it. But you also need to understand the actual, pace of the legislation. So the chain of custody, all that's very relevant and very important. And you have to be trained. You have to be trained at what you're doing. But it is very powerful. All the deleted stuff. So every time you think you're deleting stuff, it's pretty much all there. The artifacts are there. So they all come out. It pretty much spits out all the internet details and stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I've used it effectively with our HR function to, people have been sacked and all the rest of it. People have, in the latter stages of my time at Newcastle, I also looked at worked with trading standards, and we developed a service with them, and that was quite effective.
Excellent. So what's the relationship then between IT audit and cybersecurity? Talking of crime.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because if you look at like the financial services model, which generally separates those out, so you've got your first line, second and third line, and generally fraud is a separate function in its entirety. But in terms of cybersecurity, I think you've also got to look at the sort of physical security and like the sort of human hacking, if you like, people term as nowadays, but it's that sort of human factor as well, and it's linking those together. And I think a lot of a lot of organizations now, like, it's a bit like change. Change now is seen not as an IT function, but as a corporate group function. And a lot of organizations that I've seen have gone to a corporate change function, including NBS, and it's really making things change for the better in terms of how things are planned and coordinated. And
Okay, so,
broad,
sorry, I was going to say, I know you've only been at NBS quite a short while, but and I presume they have some strong systems and procedures in place to protect against cybercrime. Yeah, how do you in an audit function keep ahead of abreast of the rapid technical change in cybersecurity?
Yeah, well, you can imagine that this, it changes rapidly. So it really is about a lot of work in terms of research, trusted sources. You're working with the business itself, so you're learning from the IT professionals themselves, from our risk people, and also the links that I have with the various groups. So we've got in the Northeast, you've got a real strong set of groups. You name it, you can sort of join it, which is IC Squared, OWASP, Azarca, more regional, connected to professional bodies, IIA. You've got lots of groups that I would encourage everyone to join, basically, and that's what I've done. And you connect with different people, relevant people, but it's all a learning experience, and that's what I found effective.
Excellent, excellent. Talking of groups, you remember the Northeast Fraud Forum, and of course there's a strong relationship between cybersecurity and fraud. Is that behind your involvement, or is it more audit function?
It's certainly one that I've developed over many years. So I was a board member of the NEF for about 12 years now. So we've sort of covered general investigative practices, but also we've moved into the cyber with linking up with the police, because we have a strong sort of police involvement. So linking up with the development of NERSU, that was a big driver to moving towards the cybersecurity piece, and the banks, HSBC, and different other organisations that we've linked up with, and it's really just we've just gone with the times, really, and where the key risks are, and that's how we've developed it.
Yeah, so we've had a couple of cybersecurity events with the Northeast Fraud Forum through Cyberfest, and hopefully we'll do again this year. So my last question then, these last few months have been a challenge. The next few, I don't think are going to be any different. What do you hope in terms of the future?
I think in terms of the longer term, it's really about sort of made a few notes on this, because it is very much about being optimistic. I think obviously we've got the current situation with COVID, etc., but that's really been an opportunity. The way I've looked at it, I've changed jobs. It's the world can function and move forward, even in a worst case scenario. And I think a lot of people have shown that resilience, and there's a lot of issues in terms of mental health and all the rest of it, but by having people being positive and knowing people in teams and having that positivity, it really helps. And I think also in terms of as an organization, we are obviously a mutual organization, and we've got strong links with the community, and I think that resonated with me why I moved to NBS, and I think a lot of staff sort of resonate that as well. And I think that's really where the future is, to work with our communities. Even my volunteering, that's linking with children at different ages with adults as well. And I think that all rounds you as a person, but also it's having lots of people who can make a difference, really. And that's what I try and do, try and connect people, help people out with jobs and stuff like that, and especially the young graduates and stuff who just need a bit of direction in things like this, where what is internal audit, what is cybersecurity, and it's getting professionals to talk to people. So
excellent.
Plenty to be optimistic.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that, Paul. I'd also like to thank Robert Campbell, who's helped me to set up these In Conversations. Look out for the next in our series, and if you're interested in taking part, please get in touch. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.